up, y'all? Today I'm gonna make a background. I'm gonna make this veterinarian doctor's office using this reference from The Simpsons. I just did a screen capture from YouTube. But what I'm gonna start with is I'm not gonna just trace over it. I'm gonna draw it myself, but I'm gonna use this for a couple of references. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of line it up with my screen. And by the way, my screen is 1280 by 720. That's usually what I create my thumbnails and stuff in. That's the size of the thumbnails in YouTube and the screen. So I'm going to line this up, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a perspective line. If you've seen my other videos, I have one where you use just a couple of lines to kind of create perspective. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. I'm going to hit A to add points, and I'm just going to use a couple of references from this picture. So I'll go ahead and use this diploma at the top, and I'm just going to draw over to the right and kind of align that with the top of the picture. And then I'm going to do another line, maybe at the bottom of this desk, and align it to the bottom. So now we've got that point right there. I'm going to hit A. It's going to make a point on one of these lines. Let me move it over. And I'll just connect this one. I have auto weld on, and I'll select this one and hit delete. Then I'm going to hit U and hold shift down and select both lines. And holding shift, I'm going to select red, so my stroke is red, and hit spacebar. And then when we create new layers, we'll have those to kind of guide us. So I'll start off by creating a new vector layer and calling it walls. And I'll move this picture over to the side. Or actually, let me keep it on there for just a second. Because I want to kind of get the walls in the right place. So I'll click on walls. I'm going to hit S so I can create a shape. I'm going to turn off autofill and auto stroke for a second. And I'm just going to create the back wall, which is just a square. And then I'm going to hit A to add points. And I'll go ahead and draw the bottom of the wall to the left and create another square, or not a square, rectangle, polygon, whatever you want to call it. Then I'll go ahead and move this picture to the side. I'll actually shrink it a little bit so we can just use it as reference again. So now with the wall selected, I'm going to hit U, and I'll just click and drag across the back shape. And I'll use the same color as our reference picture, so I'll just click on the fill, select that, and then for the stroke, I'm going to select the fill color, and then double click that and make it a little bit darker. So we have a stroke that's similar in color, but not quite the same. I hit spacebar, and if you're in MOHO, you're going to hit create shape. Ooh, actually, let me do something else. I'm going to do a Command Z to undo, and hit S. So I'm going to create a window shape too. So I'll just draw a square inside the wall, and then I'll do that again. Hit U, and select the wall to the right, and then holding shift down, I'll select that window shape so it punches it out, and then I'll hit spacebar. So now we have that wall color. I'll hit U again and select the other square that we made, our polygon, and I'll select the color from that reference picture again. Hit spacebar. So we have a light blue and a darker blue for the walls, and I'll just kind of adjust the points just a little bit. I'll move the window up to where it should be. Looks kind of like, it's kind of right there in this picture, in the reference picture. So now we have our wall. Let's go ahead and make the floor. I'll do a new vector layer. Call it floor. I'll put it underneath the wall. And then I'm going to use this perspective lines. I'll go ahead and grab those and pull them down, and I'll even make a couple more. I'll start from this point, the vanishing point, and draw a couple more like that, just so we get the right angle for the floor tiles. And I'll hit U, and we'll make all of these red, the strokes red still, so I'll hit spacebar. Then I'll go to the wall or floor layer that I just made, and then I'll go ahead and draw a square. And we can fill this color with anything we want, so I'll hit U, and we'll just do light gray. Hold shift down and select dark gray for the stroke. Hit spacebar. And then I'm going to hit A and add points to this floor. So just where we've made those perspective lines. So I'll draw up to here. And then, oops, click once, then drag and drop. Click once, drag and drop. Well, not click once to make a point and then make a line, I should say. Because if you just click and drag, it's just going to move it like that. So now we've got some lines. If I turn off the perspective grid, you can see they're not filled in yet. And then I'll just draw some lines horizontally, or maybe just one. So I'll click once to make a point, then drag it across, pretty straight. Do the same thing one more time down here. Then I'll hit U, and I'll select all of my lines, and I'll just hold shift down and select, well, it's already got a dark stroke, so we'll just hit spacebar. And then since it's underneath the wall, it'll look fine. If I hit Command R and render, you can see we just got some tiles on the floor right there. And the reason I did it that way, instead of putting the lines, connecting every one of the lines or making separate squares, is we can just select the color of the floor and then change it if we want. So I can make it lighter gray or whatever if we want to switch it later. So we have the wall and the floor, and let's go ahead and try and draw some cabinets underneath or behind these characters and stuff. So I'm going to start off by making a new vector, calling it cabinets. If I could spell. And we'll go ahead and start drawing just a square. And I'll hit Q. Let's turn autofill and stroke back on so it starts filling automatically. But let's do a brown and dark brown. Hold shift down to make the stroke different color and hit spacebar. And make sure your cabinet is, the layer is above the walls. So we'll start off by making a flat surface for the cabinet. Then let's go ahead and make some drawers. I'll hit S again, and I'll just draw a cabinet shape. And let's make this a little different color. So I'll hit Q, select it, and we'll just make it a little bit lighter so it sticks out. And hit OK. I'm going to zoom in using my mouse wheel. I'll hit A to add some more points, and we'll just kind of make a little indentation. So it's like a place where you can grab and open the cabinet. So I'll do it just like that. And I'm going to hit Q and select this, and I'm going to actually make a style called cabinet colors. Cabinet drawer. And let's make some more real quick. I'll hit T and click in the shape itself so it selects all of the points. Do a Command C, Command V to copy and paste. I'll make another drawer. Hit Command V to paste again. Make another one. And one more. And then I'm going to hold shift down and click on all of the drawers and just grab the bottom and transform it so it looks like it fits real nice like that. Then I'll make more cabinets. Hit T, select one of the shapes, do a Command C, Command V to copy and paste. I'll hold Shift down and grab within the first box and turn it, and holding Shift down so it clicks at a 45-degree angle. I'll kind of line that up there, and then I'll stretch it down and stretch it over so it's like a big door. And I'll go ahead and grab these points and make them a little smaller. So we get a drawer. I'll hit T, select that. Command C, Command V, copy, paste. I'll flip it. Move it over. And I'll hit G and select just that door handle part and hit T to move it. Grab in the center and move it down a little bit. And then let's go ahead and make a little bit of a chair space, or so it's like a desk. So I'll hit A, add a point, then I'll click and drag over here to make the cabinet go up, and then do that again over here, just adding points like that. It's pretty close. And then to make the back of the cabinet, we need the right angle, so let's go to perspective lines again. I'll click on those. I'm going to move some of these. So I'll put one there, and then put another one down here. So we have our reference lines, or perspective lines. Go back to cabinets. I'll go ahead and hit A, add a point, click and drag that to the back of the wall, then straight up. And it has auto weld on, so it should just click like that. Then we'll grab this one, do the same thing, pull it back, and then go straight up. And we're gonna need perspective lines again, so I'm gonna grab that and put that on the corner right there. And go back down, hit A, add points, and join that right there. Then I'll hit U, so we're going to fill that in again. We'll go ahead and grab that, hit spacebar, and let's go ahead and select the cabinet color, make it a little bit darker. Clicking the fill and just dragging that down, hit OK. The stroke we want to make the same as the rest of the cabinet, so just hover over the stroke and let go. Hit U. Do the same for this one. Should be ready already, so I'll just hit U and it should be the right color. And then let's make the top of the cabinet. I'll hit S. It's already on the square. And let's select a gray. Oops, still on that side of the cabinet, so let's click off of it. Let's just start drawing the top. Draw a square, hit Q, select that color. I'll do light gray, dark gray, maybe a little darker for the fill. Hold Shift down and then make that. Let me select, then I just want to take the top of that counter. I want to make it a little bit thinner. Why is it? Huh, that's weird. It's making a really big box around it. Let's make that a little bit thinner like that. And you see it's hanging off the edge a little bit. Just make sure it's doing the same over here. Like that. I'll hit S, or actually A, and I'm just gonna guess these points a little bit. I'm actually making it float way off, just because I don't want it to weld to this shape. So we kind of have this floating up here. I'll hit U, select both of those, hold shift down and select the other 2 points, hit spacebar. That way we can kind of move this around just a little bit without it sticking to the cabinet underneath. So like that. Then I'll hit A, and this is going to be the top of the counter. It's going to be really thin. And just select it there. This point can be anywhere because we can readjust it with the perspective lines later. So hit U, select that corner, this corner, that corner, and it turns checkered, and we'll hit spacebar again. Let's make that a little bit lighter. I'll click on the fill and turn that up just so we know that it's a little different from the edges. Spacebar. And let me use perspective real quick just so I can get this angle right. I'm lining it up right to this point. So it's going to be really, this point actually should be way over here, like that. Okay. That looks pretty good. Let's see what else they got here. Faucet and paper towel dispenser. Let's draw the faucet real quick. That looks weird. I'm going to move this back over to right about there. Oops. Command Z. Accidentally moved a cabinet door. Turn off perspective lines for just a second. So let's make a faucet real quick. I'm going to stay on cabinets just because it's part of the cabinet. And I'll hit S. And we already have a gray color. Let's do a little bit lighter. And then hold shift down and do this for the outline. So I'll draw just a square for the base. Another square for the attachment. Then I'll draw the faucet itself. I'll hit A, add a couple points here. Then I'll move these down. A, add a couple more points. Then I'll hit C so I can curve them out. So I'll curve this one out. And then just hit C and curve this out too so it curves down. And kind of adjust these points until they look decent. And that's pretty good. I'll hit S again, make another square for the end of the faucet. That should be alright. And let's make the, what do you call them? Hot and cold. Whatever they're called. I don't know. Let's see. I'm just using squares. I'm hitting S and then just making squares. The end of it I'm gonna kind of flare out just a little bit because I want it to kind of be rounded. So I'm hitting C and curving it just a little bit. Then I'll hit T, select inside the shape, hold shift down, click on that inside that shape and this shape. So we select everything. And we'll do a Command C, Command V, copy paste. Then we'll use the flip button here, flip horizontally, and move our copy over to the other side. And then we got a little faucet going on here. I think maybe we should move the faucet over a little bit, like that. And let's make a paper towel dispenser. So I'm going to keep this on the cabinets layered. Well, no, let's make a new. We'll just call this paper towel. That way you can move it around if you want and not have to worry about messing up other parts of the layer. So paper towels, I'll hit S again, just make a square. Hit Q. I'm just making this a little bit lighter color. And remember, all you have to do to change color is hit Q and select inside that shape if it's filled, and then select a new one. And let's use those perspective lines a little bit. Go back to perspective lines. I'm going to grab that, a couple of them, like that. And actually, this paper towel dispenser is going to be kind of weird shapes, so we're just going to use that just for the top. Go to paper towels, hit A, so I'll add a line here, and then it's going to go down a little bit farther, so it's kind of odd shaped like that. Then we'll connect that, then we'll drag this over to the side. There we go. That's a little too big, so let's move this over. Just keep messing with it until it looks right to you. I'll hit U, select the side, hit spacebar, select the bottom, hit spacebar. So what I did was I hit U, because I want to fill it, and dragged over those 4 points. If it turns checkered, that means that it's going to fill correctly. So sometimes you can just do this, where you fill all of it with the same color and then go back and hit Q, select the fill, and then change it to get like better shading. And I'll change that. Do the same thing with the bottom, make that even darker. Well, maybe not darker. About like that. And then paper towel coming out, we'll just draw a line across the bottom, hit U, spacebar. Got the little, or MOHO. Remember, you can just hit create shape. Then we'll just make paper towel. Real quick, I'll just do a little trick. I'll do Command G to turn the grid on. I'm gonna hit A. Actually, let's hit S. I'm gonna draw a square. I'm gonna hit A, and then I'm just gonna click and drag shapes up and down on the grid. That way you get a really fast, easy, sharp edge, like torn paper. Let's do a Command Shift G, and instead of it being 20, let's do 10, just so the grid's a little smaller. Let's try that again. Let's move these points, and just so I get more jagged edges, like that. Really quick. There we go. Now I'll hit Q. Actually, Command G, get rid of the grid. Hit Q, select that. Change the paper color to paper towel color-ish. Hit OK. Again, another trick that I will constantly use is for the stroke. I'll just click on the eyedropper, select the fill color, so it's all the same, and then click in the stroke again and then drag it down. That way you get a color that's just a little offset from the fill. And it's real easy to do. And I'll hit T, select the paper towel. I'll resize it by grabbing the inner square, move it where I want it to be. Right there. Pull this side out, pull this up. You can change the length of the paper towel. There we go. Got a little paper towel dispenser going on there. And let's see what else we got. We got a cabinet over here. Let's make more cabinets. I'll go to the cabinet again, just because we're going to use the same colors, I think. I'll select the background or the main cabinet color, hit copy, then I'll hit S. I'm going to draw a square like that. Then I'll draw another square for the cabinet door, hit Q, select it, and since we made a style for it, we'll just use the cabinet drawer color. Wait, what is this? Cabinet drawer color. And cabinet drawer color. There we go. So we got that one. I'll hit T, Command C, Command V, copy paste. So we make the other door. And we'll make these a little bit different. We'll make knobs on it. So hit S, select circle, draw a doorknob, hit Q, select the fill. Oh, we have to take off. This is something that happens sometimes if you're using color styles, like I have the drawers all set to this color. If I try and change the fill, it's not working. You can see it looks like it's locked. I can't do anything. It's just because the style's turned on. So just change that to none. And now you can change that color. So I'm just going to make this a little bit lighter. I hit Command C, Command V, copy paste, move that over. We can make a little shadow underneath the cabinet too. So we'll just, I'll hit A, add a point. Like it's going back there. And then over to the side of the wall and then up. And then I'll do U for fill in color. We'll grab that. And the easiest way to make shadows in Anime Studio is just to go ahead and select black for your fill color. Hit spacebar. Take off the stroke. And then click in the fill. And then just make the fill, turn the opacity down to about 25. And then you have a nice shadow. And you don't have to guess what color it is. And I'll do that again real quick. So let's say you want a shadow of the cabinet over here. I'll just hit to square. And right now it's because the last thing I did was the shadow, it's actually got the opacity already. So it's actually a good way to, you can draw everything and then put shadows in the background. So here's a good example. Let's do cabinets. I'm going to select the faucet, everything in the faucet. Good way to select everything. Hit G, drag over everything you can. And then I'll do a Command C, Command V, copy, paste. And since the pasted one is on top, I'll go ahead and then do a Command or a Q and hold Shift down, and you can select everything in the original artwork. So we're selecting all of those. We'll select black for the fill, take off the stroke, and then turn the fill down to 25. Hit OK. And you've got a shadow, but you can see where it's overlapping. You probably should make it one shape. But this is just an example so you can see that I just made like a kind of shadow. I'll do a Command R so you can render. So see there's a shadow behind that faucet. So just a quick easy way to do that. I'm going to do a Command Z though and get rid of that because I don't want to put any shadows in here really. Okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and do some, let's make this little whatever you call it, table, dog table. I don't know what it is. Create a new vector layer. Let's call this table. Table. If I could spell right. Go to our perspective lines. I'm just going to look at this really quick. So I'll move a couple right here just to get the base, and let's go ahead and use those. Go to table. So I'll go ahead and draw a rectangle. Hit T, grab the points, stretch these out. And put that there. Make it parallel or horizontal. That's too large. Let's just go right about there. go back to the perspective lines. Hit that corner. That's too much. Let's see. Maybe it needs to be a little bit narrower. Table. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Just make it like that. So basically I'm just trying to get these lines to be horizontal and using the perspective lines to kind of line them up. Like that. I'll hit S. Actually A. Add a line over here. Make the base of the table. Hit U. Grab that, hit create shape or spacebar if you're on Anime Studio 11. Do the same for this side. I'm not even going to change the color yet. I'm just going to draw. How does that look? Okay, so it's got a little... Okay. Let's draw the whole thing. This goes down. And if you ever get lost with what I'm doing, go ahead and I have the keystrokes down here to see what I'm doing. Oops. Make that. And let's see. Okay, we need to get the curves right here, so I'm going to have to move the perspective lines. Again, grab one, kind of move it right about there. Table. So I'm just using this for reference to this kind of angle that I have here in the table. Line that up, trying to make it horizontal. Okay, let's fill all these in real quick. Select that, spacebar. Select this one, spacebar. And the back of the table, spacebar. That table ledge is looking pretty thick. So let's make that a little smaller. Bring this down. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and change these colors. I'm going to use the cabinet color. And then make this a little lighter. Make this one a little darker. Again, I'm just using the color picker and dragging, left-clicking, dragging over the top of another color and letting go. And then to make it a little darker, I'll just click again in the fill, turn that down a little bit. Same with the top of this. I'll make this a little bit darker on the top. Maybe make this one darker too. And hit G, kind of mess around with these points. It still looks a little off. We'll grab that and try and make that distance a little bit the same here. Hanging off, make the lip hang off the table a little bit more. And I'm using the perspective lines just to be precise, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's just a background. If you look at a lot of cartoon backgrounds, you'll notice that they're just really quickly drawn or just not very detailed. I'm just kind of doing this as an example to show you guys how to use these perspective lines. And there's that. Still looks a little off, but let's make some drawers too. I'll grab the perspective lines. Let's put some shelves right here. Just use these. Go back to the table. I'll hit S. It's on the square already. We'll go ahead and drag and drop one. I hit T. Grab some points for some really long drawers. Like that. Hit S again. Do the same thing. We'll draw one directly under it. I hit T just to grab these points again and move on. Hit Q, select one, hold shift down, select the other. We'll use this color over here. And for the stroke, we'll select the fill, darken that. And I'll go ahead and select the circle shape tool. Kind of oval. Make that a little bit lighter. Hit T, and I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. Command C, Command V, copy, paste. Move that down there. Let's get rid of the perspective lines for just a second, or hide them. Let's do a render real quick. So a Command R, just kind of check to see what stuff's looking like. That table is way too long. There's no space in between the desk, and it looks a little too short too. So let's redo some of that. Let's make this taller. I'm going to hit G, and first thing, let's grab these endpoints and make it shorter. So there's some space in between this desk and the back and over there. And then we'll make it taller too. We're gonna have to redo some of these, the circle and stuff, but let's grab all these points, pull it up. So it's gonna be like that tall. Now we'll fix it. I'll use perspective lines. I'll turn those on again. Let's fix that table. I'm moving these lines. This line's aligning with this corner here. I'm just pulling a little bit farther out so it's not messing with my art, and then do the same thing. It's actually lining up to this corner. We'll put this here for the side of the table, and then let's go back to the table and just fix everything using those perspective lines. So I'm gonna put this down here. That's actually gonna come out to here. Okay. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Bring that down. Bring this down to kind of line up. Let's move these drawers. Oh, this is way too long. Bring this back to right about there. Something's curving, right? Hit C, curve. I'm just mumbling to myself because I'm trying to figure stuff out as I go. But I'm gonna keep this video in real time just because I want you guys to see how long it actually takes to make a background sometimes. It's not quick. Can be pretty quick and easy if you want it to be, but I'm just, like I said, I'm using these perspective lines, and yeah, I have a lot of questions about making backgrounds and things like that, and I think that a lot of times it comes across as it's really quick and easy, and It can be when you start, you know, um, when you get really fast using the shortcuts like the keys. I don't even have to look down on at my keyboard. I just kind of know that I need to hit T to move these points, and G. It's just repetition. And I would suggest, if you're really using Anime Studio a lot or Moho 12, is to just get used to the shortcuts. That's true of anything, Photoshop or any other program. Once you memorize the shortcuts, it gets way easier and faster to draw. This might seem like it's taking a long time and it's really slow, but it takes a whole lot longer when you have to look down or go up to the menus and keep selecting different tools, or even going over to the left and selecting tools. So I hit this. I know when I click on it, I can make it a little bit bigger and not look at it and rotate. And I'll select this, delete it. I'm gonna hit this, copy, Command C, Command V, copy and paste, just so it's the right size. Turn a little bit. That's pretty good. Let's take this perspective lines. That looks a little bit better. It's still kind of meh, you know, but that's okay. It's on its own layer, so we can move it around if we want to. It's a little bit bigger than the one on the reference picture. But yeah, we can just keep going. We can make stuff. There's a little trash can here. Again, I'll just make a new vector. Trash can. The reason I'm doing the separate layers instead of making it one background or everything on one is that I might want to reuse some of these in a different background, and that way we have different assets or different pieces of artwork that you can use later on. So the trash can, I'll hit S or select the shape tool. We'll hit square. Kind of always like starting with a square. It just seems a lot easier. We'll do a light gray and then hold shift, dark gray for the stroke. Oops. So I'll draw that. Hit A to add a point, adding some points at the bottom and top, curving that out. And go ahead and hit A, add point, and then we'll make the top. Curve that, so it's kind of a oval. Hit U. Select the top 4 points, hit spacebar to fill that in. I'm going to hit A and add points and create a line there. Hit U. Select that line, spacebar. Again, just need to remind you, if you're in Moho 12, you have to hit create shape. So I'll do that again. A, add point, click here, drag with auto weld on, hit C, curve the point out, hit U and select it, and then instead of hitting the spacebar, you hit create shape, and that'll make that line there. And then we can do, I'm gonna hit A and just kind of draw some raggedy points here. This is just like the trash can liner. I'll hit G. Holding shift down, I'll grab a bunch of these points and then hit C and just curve them out just so it's not so jagged. Kind of move them around so they're not, so it looks a little messier. Hit U, and I'll select those shapes that create that kind of liner. And then select a dark color, hit spacebar. So we got the trash liner. And then again, we can, since it's on its own layer, it's really easy to move it somewhere else. If you want it to be over here in the scene or over here. Same thing with the cabinets and the tables. Since they have perspective, it will look weird though if you move it around. So if I grab that table, I can move it and it won't look too bad, but the perspective would actually change if this was a real room, or I mean, You know what I mean? You can see these lines right here don't line up with the floor now. So you'd have to adjust it maybe if you moved it, but you still have it in the scene by itself to be reused elsewhere. There's that. Let's go back to the wall for just a second. I just want to make that window so we can make the outside. So there's the window itself. I'll hit S, and I'm just going to use the square or rectangle tool and use a dark gray and even darker for the stroke. We'll just put the window trim around it. So I'll just drag and drop. Let's make that a little lighter. Like that. I hit T, and while it's selected, Command C, Command V, copy paste, pull that over, copy paste again. I'm gonna hold Shift down, rotate that to the right, drag that down to the bottom to make the bottom of the trim. Grab the point in the center, pull that over, and pull it a little bit past the edge there and there. So we have our window. Oops. Right there. And then I'll make a new vector layer, and this will just be called outside. And we'll drag that to the very bottom so it's beneath everything. That way you can draw real easily outside. There's some buildings back there. We'll kind of mimic that. So I'll go ahead and hit S, create a shape. There's one building. There's another building. Let's give them perspective too. We'll just guess. We'll just go like that. Maybe make this one a little bit bigger. Hit Q. This time I'll just pick a color. Kind of red brick. This one I'll do bluish, blue-gray. Like that. Make the back of this building a little real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be hidden, so we'll go ahead and grab those points, fill it in, make that a little darker. And let's go ahead and, since it's selected still, checkered, we'll just hit the down arrow on our keyboard and put it behind everything. So now that's behind the red brick. Let's give it a little trim. I'll hit S. Draw a little rectangle there. Pull this over. All I'm doing is making kind of the building not so boring, and put some trim there and make that gray, dark gray. Do some on this one too. Make it overextend the top a little bit. Oops. Yes. I don't do like that. Hit Q, select it, and then hit the down arrow. Just move it down until it's hidden again. And let's see. I'll make another building right here, just like that reference. I'll make this one kind of red, dark red too, or brown-ish. Like that. Make a small window. There. Just make it light. Then we'll put some trim around it. Command C, Command V, copy, paste. S, add another shape. And like that. Just drawing some rectangles. Hit Q. Now I'm going to select all the trim parts and then just make those gray. So we have a window. Hit G. I'll grab that. Everything. Command C, Command V. Make a smaller, use that same window over here and shrink it. I'm going to hit W so that I can shrink down the stroke too a little bit. And let's go ahead and hit G. Let's go ahead and grab just these side points and pull them up. Oops. Well, let's see. Let's try that again. G, T, That's gonna take too long. Hit G, grab those points, lift them up so they're turning that way, kind of. Then I'm hitting T and just kind of readjusting the points manually, just by what do you call it? just guesstimating where it should be, because it's not really that important. Again, this is just like the background image that you won't even really pay attention to or look at. So I'll hit G, select all that, copy, paste, and move that over. So I got some more windows. Maybe turn the lights down on this, so we'll make that dark gray. And you can keep doing that. You can make some more windows over here. Even though I wanted to make this, you know, a long video, which it already is, I don't want to spend a ton of time on these windows and things like that. So I'll just make a couple. T. Another thing to get really used to is copying and pasting. You can see I'm doing that quite a bit. So I'll hit T, select both of these windows, holding Shift down, and copy and pasting those and moving them down. And then you could do that again. Hold T, or hit T, hold Shift, select all four of them, copy paste, and move those down. And then I'll hit Q, turn some of the lights off so it's kind of random. And I'll just use that same gray like that. We can make the sky in the background. I'll hit Q, select it, do a light blue, hit the down arrow so it goes all the way to the back. Or you can go up to draw, lower to back, so it goes all the way to the back immediately. So there's the sky. You can actually put a gradient in there too. I'll hit Q, select it, and then under Effect, we'll go to Gradient. And we'll click on this color, the white color, turn that to blue, or almost white. And then select the black, and then select darker blue. So you get this nice kind of sky color gradient like that. And you can add some bushes and things like that. You can keep adding. The more stuff you add, the nicer it looks. Okay, so I just drew a circle. I hit S for create shape, and then I select the oval tool, and it just does whatever the last thing you picked color wise. So if you do, like I have the sky selected, then I'll hit S, and if I start drawing, it starts putting that gradient in there. To take that off, you just need to hit Q, select it, and then turn that off up in the effect. So go to plane. I'm just going to select green, make some kind of weird tree thing, bush. Oops, didn't mean to grab the side of the building. Like that. That's probably would have been easier with just drawing with a pencil. Let's do that. Grab the pencil. We'll just say there's some trees in the background over here. Oops. What's going on here? Trim and auto stroke. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm just trying to draw some kind of weird tree thing in the background. And it's connecting to Whoa. I'm trying to use the pencil, but it's connecting to, let's take off merge strokes. Nope. Maybe it is easier to just draw with a circle. Do that again. Actually, you know what? Let's copy paste. Delete that. We'll select this. Copy paste. Move it over. Shrink it. I'm hitting W to kind of change the lines. And hit Q and just move it behind everything. Lower to back. And then push the up arrow once just so it's in front of the sky. Flip it. I'm just going to change the color a little bit, make it a little darker. Lower to back. Again, go under draw. Hit up arrow once so it's above the sky. So now we have some bushes and stuff behind there. So let me render that. Then you've got the little background with the buildings. And a lot of this, that's pretty much it for the background. I mean, really all we're doing now is going to be adding little details like this jar of tongue depressors and things like that. So you can do those separately. I can add a new vector. Call it jars. And I'll zoom in here. So with these jars, what I would do is draw a square. Let's put that on the top above everything else. And I'm going to hit Q, select it, and I'll hit white for the fill and the stroke. So I'm holding shift down to change the stroke. But in the fill, I'll go ahead and turn that way down so it's see-through. Or almost see-through. Then I'll curve this down. Maybe flare out the bottom. So I'll add some points here, curve those out. So it's a little bit more like a jar. Or, you know, just got this little curve at the bottom. I'll go ahead and add a stroke here at the bottom because it's supposed to kind of look like glass. So I'll hit C, curve that out, hit U, spacebar. I'm going to hit W and taper the edges so it's kind of like a reflection on the glass. I'll make the top of the jar with just the oval. Maybe add some points to make it like a, I don't know what you call it. It gives it a little handle. Like that. That is a horrible jar. Whoa. Curve. It's a weird looking jar, man. Maybe put another tapered line. Actually, again, copy paste, turn that, move that. Then make a tongue depressor. I'll hit S. Let's start with a square. Hit Q, select it, give it that wood color and a darker stroke. Hit W, make that stroke a little smaller. I'll hit A and add points to the top and bottom and curve those out, hitting C. And the fill is really light because we had the glass color, so we need to select that and turn the opacity back up so we can actually see it. Hit G, hit T. I'll just make that a little longer. That, and then I'll just copy and paste it a bunch of times. I'll hit T, select it, copy paste, move it over, copy paste, move it over, turn it, copy paste, do another one, paste, V, Command V, Command V, Command V. All I'm doing is just doing Command V so I can get a whole bunch of them. And then I'll hit G, select all of them. Oops. And because they were created last, they're on top of everything. So, and we want them to be behind in the jar. So we'll go ahead and put that there. Then I'm going to select the jar, hit T. I'll select the jar, hold Shift down, click on those reflections and the jar top itself. I'll cut it, Command X, which is going to cut it, and then Command V to paste. Now it's above. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's actually, it looks like they're inside the jar now. There's a little bit of white on the jar, so if I take the lid off and grab one of those, you can see that it's actually a little bit of a different color. That's very nitpicky. Here, let me make the, you don't have to do all of this. This is just a really long winded video, and I'm sorry. But I'm just kind of showing you guys some of the things that I would do just to make a background. Do that. Then you could copy and paste. Make another jar. Actually, let's undo that. I'm going to select just the parts of the jar. And copy paste. So we have another one. And we can put cotton balls in them, so we can do like a circle. Change the fill. We'll make it almost white. And make it a little uneven, lumpy. Oops. And sometimes this is a good thing to know too, is that, you know, if you're really wanting to learn animation, I'm not even anywhere close to being good. I just do this as a hobby, but it takes a long time to do something that you might only see for a couple seconds, or not at all. I mean, this background is just something that I may or may not use. I'll copy paste, Command C, Command V, and then I'll just hit Command V a bunch of times. Turn some, Command V. Turn it, Command V. Command V. Just to make this little group of cotton balls. And then do the same thing that I did before. I'll select this jar. Cut it, paste it just so it's above the cotton balls, and then just drag those in there. And another thing that you should know how to do is if you want to select certain groups of things, like you know, if you hit T and grab something, it's going to move just that one pixel or one object. So if I grab this tongue depressor or the jar, it's going to move like that. So what you want to do is create groups. So I'll do a G and select everything in that group with the tongue depressors, and then I'll say, I'll call this jar 1, and then hit create, and this creates the group. So if I do the same with this one, we'll call this jar 2 and create. What that does is, if you have lots of points and you're getting really confused, like say, let's select jar 1. What that does is, if I had a whole bunch of points and they're all overlapping and it's very hard to work with this artwork because you've kind of messed up and put two objects on top of each other and it's very hard to separate, because you've created those groups, you can just go in and say select group, and then select it and then move it out of the way. Jar 2, it's already selected. So no matter where you put it, it's really easy to move. So we got jars. all the little things that you add are going to make your background look better. If I put a light switch over here, let's go to the wall, and I draw a little light switch. And I'm just guessing the perspective. Actually, let's use the perspective lines. Let's keep it consistent. So we'll draw a tiny light switch here. Go back to wall. Grab that. It might be too big, but that's all right. S, and there's the light switch, and then we'll just make it one of those toggle ones, just because it's easier to make. There we go. And even if something has a color already in it, so I made this little kind of toggle switch, you can actually add another shape on top of it. So if I hit U and select these bottom points, oops, if it's connected. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, I connected it to the wrong point. What? Oh. Okay. Let's make this like that. Okay. So say this is a toggle. You know, I got this shape, but I want to color this. You can actually go in and hit U and select those 4 points and cover it again. And now there's actually two shapes in that area. I'm just making this a little darker so it looks like a switch. Grab that, put that there. Move these perspective lines down. And then I'll go ahead and draw something else. I'll draw a socket. And let's change the color. Kind of a tan. Yeah. Tan color. Adding points. Let's shrink that a little bit. Copy paste. And what do you call that? Circuit breaker. Just making a little outlet. Command or copy paste, put that over there. Hit T, select both of those, copy paste, move those down. And then just to make it a little bit more 3D or extrude a little bit, we can just add some edges. This is kind of the same thing I did with the table. Just making some kind of edges stick out. Make these a little darker. Make that a little lighter. And this a little darker. Then I'm going to select all the points, hit W, and shrink down that stroke because it's really thick. change the color of the outlets just a bit. Just so they look a little better. And these would probably be dark. There we go. And like I said, I know I've said this several times and I keep mumbling, but the more detail you add to the background, the better it looks. So if I add diplomas and a chair sitting here and whatnot, it should be pretty cool. Even just pipes, all kinds of things. We could add shadows. I'll go ahead and add shadows real quick. Let me do one more thing. I know this video is extremely long. We'll do vector. Let's do, actually, just on the wall. Go to the wall. Let's use our perspective lines again. Let's go ahead and make a couple of those diplomas or just things hanging on the wall. So we'll do one up here. Hit S. I'll just draw a square. That's really big. Let's go ahead and shrink that down. Oops. Cut. Put on the wall. The reason I don't draw things on the perspective lines layer is so the perspective lines won't accidentally move or I don't accidentally grab them. So that's why I switch from perspective. I get them lined up where I kind of want them to be, and then go to the layer I want to create on, just so no matter what I do, I don't accidentally grab the those lines itself. So let's do this. And like that. And then I'll go back to perspective. We'll move them down a bit. And I'll draw another square on the wall. This one's going to be a little smaller, so we'll just go like that. I'm just going to turn the perspective lines off for a second. So this is going to be a frame for one thing, so I'll go ahead and make this dark gray. And then I'll hit S. I'm going to make another square. This is going to be the paper inside, so we'll select kind of a tannish color, like a diploma. Hit T. This we can kind of guess on. We don't need the perspective lines because we can kind of visually just guess how the paper is going to fit in there. We can use the other corners as reference. Let's put that in there. Let's make this frame a little dark blue or something. And I'm going to copy and paste this color. Move it. Hit T. Maybe make it just a slightly different color, just so it doesn't look so exact. And we can hit A and add some points. Again, since these are frames, they might stick out from the wall just a bit. So we can add points. Do the same thing that we did for the outlet, is just kind of make edges. Oops. Let's put the point way out. So if you have problems, if you have auto weld on, if you get too close to the line, it's going to snap where you don't want it to. The trick that I use to avoid that is just draw the point just really far away from the edge, and then connect it, and then hit T and move it back to where you need it to be. That way you don't have problems with that auto weld. So I can draw them way out here. This would be really exaggerated. So it's really easy to draw those edges, and then hit T and then just bring them back. So if you get frustrated with, you know, auto snapping, it's really handy to have because it makes those complete shapes. But then it also, oops, see, like this, I didn't want that edge to snap to the wall. I'm gonna hit Command Z and undo all the way back. Okay, so I don't have any edges. So the problem was it was snapping to this wall, so I'm gonna draw it way out here, down, up. And see, that looks really exaggerated and crazy, but it was just an easy way to make sure I didn't draw lines where I didn't want them. There we go, hit U. And here's another thing. When you're trying to fill stuff in and you do this, and see how I'm accidentally selecting that point there? You don't want that. You hold Option down and left click and drag over it to deselect. I think that's really important to know. So if I do this with U selected, the reason why it's not becoming checkered is because these 2 points have been selected. So I need to hold Option and just drag over them to deselect. Now you can see it turned checkered and it's ready to be filled in, so I can hit spacebar. Change the color, make this a little lighter. Hit U. Holding Shift down, if I want to grab these 4 points, I'll grab these two, becomes checkered, hit spacebar, fills in. Let's do the same thing. We'll do over exaggerate where we need our points to be. Hit T, move them into place. Hit U. I selected too much, so I'll hold Option, deselect. Everything's okay, so it becomes checkered. Hit spacebar. I'll use a different color. Okay. Hit U. Again, I selected too much. Hold down Option, drag over those to deselect, and now this is selected correctly. Hit spacebar. Or create shape. Again, if you're in MOHO 12. Come in and change this a little bit more too, so it has more reflection. I'm going to hit A, kind of readjust the corners of this. Then we can scribble some stuff on here. I'll use a dark color and just, you know, this is, we'll just pretend that's words. And this is a signature of some kind. You don't want to actually do that too much though, because the more points you have, the longer something takes to render. You can save this out as a, oops, let me make this bigger. And then I'll just use W to make it thicker so it looks like a something or other. You can use text too. If you do a Command T, you can just type in diploma. What's a good? So I did the Command T. Now oops, I can't see. It's too big. Scale this down. Let me. Double click that. It's still text. I want to find a font or a typeface that is actually, you know, nice looking. Doesn't really matter, but I don't want it to be like that. Let's just go with that. So you can have diploma. I don't know if that's even spelled right. I don't know. So you can change the scale of how big it is here. The leading is actually the space in between the letters. So if you mess with that, Oh, you can't really do it with this font. Oh no, that's between words. Kerning is between letters. So you can actually kind of adjust that. And then hit OK. This is always going to be text unless you right-click on the line or right-click on the layer and convert to vector. Then you can start manipulating it as if it was individual shapes. But I'm going to tilt this a little bit. I'll squeeze it, put it here, add some more nonsense, you know, scribblings, achievements, blah, blah, blah. So you have a diploma on the wall. So that's, I'm going to just stop right there. But as you can see, I would do the same thing if I wanted to add more elements. I would just keep going using those same techniques. But that's how I would make a background using a reference picture. I'm going to try and make more backgrounds for my patrons just to give away. Usually I use Illustrator because Illustrator is a little bit quicker for me to use because they have a lot better drawing tools. Anime Studio is great, but it's not, it's just not as robust as far as creating artwork is concerned. So that's it. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below. If you have any requests for a type of background, let me know, because I still, even though I've made a few videos for backgrounds, I still get lots of requests for them. So I just kind of wondered what you guys would want to see more of. So any more suggestions on tutorials, backgrounds, things that you'd like to see in the future, just let me know. Thanks for watching.